Welcome, magical friends, to Sonnet's Flippin' Frenzy, where a group of creative women across the country sent thrift finds to each other to flip. So let's open this box together to see what Lisa from Gypsy Women Charm sent me. I will have her link to YouTube below in the description. So first thing I found was these little tin cups, followed by this super cute galvanized birdhouse candle box situation, and this key mail sorter box. So it's like a mail sorter on the outside, and you open it up and it has little key hooks. So it could be used for lots of different things, maybe jewelry or what, lots of things. And then this very cute mirror, which I will be flipping in a future video. And then fluff, 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 yay. Okay, so here's a quick look at my 4 items again. And I've got the tin cups, the birdhouse, and the key organizer. And of course, my dog had to check them out, make sure they were okay. Okay, so I'm actually going through the IOD transfer book called Wild Blooms, and it has all of these beautiful wildflowers and some butterflies and dragonflies and all kinds of stuff like that. And I'm cutting out a bunch of options for wildflowers that I could potentially use in here. I do cut out way more than I use. And then I'm sizing them to see how they're best going to fit on the galvanized parts. Now, obviously, lots of these parts are going to go over the windows, and I'm okay with that, but I didn't want to waste a whole big pieces going over the windows, so I cut some parts out that I might fill in later. So with Iron Orchid Design transfers, you lay them down how you want them, and then you push them down and then go over them with the transfer stick that comes in each package. And you want to go over them completely and then start at one end and lift them as you're pushing down with the transfer stick. And if anything were to come up and on the plastic that didn't stick down, you just lay it right back down, rub again with the transfer stick, and comes up. So for this particular one, you see me cutting out parts from the windows because when I pulled them up, a lot of times parts of the florals or the stems did go over the windows and then like stayed there. So when I pulled the plastic up, there was still parts of the flowers just kind of hovering in the window. Now those aren't going to last because they're very thin vinyl. So I used a craft knife to cut those away. So you'll see me doing that a lot. Here's a little butterfly I was adding to the roof, and I used these florals and butterflies all over the 4 sides of the birdhouse, and I also wanted to wrap around some of the corners. So here you see I'm using this larger floral, wrapping it around the corner, and I'm pushing down with the transfer stick. So when you're wrapping around a corner like this, you want to put one side down, push it all down, then put the other side down, push it all down, and then start transferring, slowly lifting the plastic, pulling up on it as you're pushing the plastic parts down with the transfer stick. And again, I have parts that go across the window, so I will be cutting those away. I'm using my fingers to burnish all of the parts of the transfer down. A lot of times you will use the plastic backing from the transfer to burnish. Because I was going around all these little sections of the windows, I used my finger mostly, and this helped me get that kind of detailed burnishing. It was a little bit easier. So again, I'm putting lots of flowers, and this particular floral had a butterfly on it as well. I won't show you every single floral transfer I put down because this video would be too long. I did use several though. This was a really fun project to work with. So this is the last video of today, but not the last video of this Flippin' Frenzy. There are so many creative women in Sonnet's creative network that we would have taken up way too long of your Sunday if we premiered all of these in one shot. So we are going to have 2 days of this premiere train going. So please come back tomorrow for the second part of this Flippin' Frenzy train, which will be starting at 3:57 Central Time and leading right up into Sonnet and Tara's live at 6 p.m. Central Time. So now I'm painting this roof Apothecary Green from DIY, and actually all of the 3 projects that I'm going to be using in this project are going to feature this color, as they are going to be part of a vignette in my new booth. And the DIY color is a clay-based paint that is reactivated by water, so I am giving this a coat of clear matte sealer and actually gave it 3 coats because in case somebody was going to take it outside. So now I'm taking the stamp called Barnwood Planks from Iron Orchid Designs, and I picked a design that I thought would look good on the roof to give it that sort of wood look. Now, what I did wrong here is that this is going to be my background, and when stamping your backgrounds, it should be last. So I didn't think about this. I should have thought about this, but I should have done all of my other stamping first, then masked those off and come back in afterwards with the barnwood plank so it looked like a background. I didn't do that, so there we go. So I'm stamping both sides with different parts of the stamp so they don't look identical to each other. And I'm using stone gray as I wanted it to be softer than using black. Again, this is the background, so I use black for the birds and branches that I'll be using on the roof as well, but I used stone gray for the barnwood planks. So I'm setting that aside while that ink is drying. I did give it a blast of heat to heat set the ink as well. And we're going to move on to this little mail sorter, key sorter box here. So I'm taking all of the hardware out and putting it in a little bowl so it doesn't get lost. So for those of you who are new to my channel, hi, my name is Jen. I'm the Upcycling Alchemist. I love to take old items or thrifted items or things that just look like maybe they were thrown away or trashed and turn them into something beautiful, going from trash to treasure, from rock to gold, like alchemy. So again, we are featuring Apothecary Green from DIY Paints on all 3 projects. And so I give the entire outer part of this box a good 2 coats of the Apothecary Green. And I know most of the time when you see people using DIY paints, they are in a paint can. However, I like to put mine into little canning jars so that that's just easier for me to get into, easier for me to store in my little crafting area, because I do craft from my couch. So you might notice there's a couch under, and probably me in my pajamas, because that's just what I like to do. I get in my pajamas, I get comfortable, I sit on my couch, I watch some Netflix or some of my favorite creators on YouTube and new creators on YouTube, and I just paint my happy little heart out. So I had to get a different brush to get inside these little mail slots because to get that green color down in there. So I set that project aside, and now I'm coming back to work on these little cups. So I am taking a napkin with these cute little rabbits. It's a gray napkin, so I thought it might blend in nicely with the metal cups. So for 2 of the cups, I'm doing this napkin, and for the other 2 cups, I'm going to paint and stamp, which you'll see in a moment. Now, I did not separate this video out into project number 1, project number 2, and project number 3, because I'm showing you the process of when you're making multiple projects like this as a creative, you're not necessarily taking one project from start to finish before working on something else. So paint is drying, ink is drying, clear coats are drying, whatever it might be, and you're working on something else. So this is actually the order that I did all of these projects. I back and forth and back and forth. So I took some water and a small artist brush, and I used the water method to cut out these napkin pieces because I just wanted the little section on there. I didn't want the whole napkin. And I took I took my decoupage medium, and you can see me trying to put it on there, and I was struggling because it's round and I wanted to roll around. So I got 2 small little jars of paint and put it between them to try to keep it from rolling around. I didn't use it very much, but it did help me with that initial placement. So now I'm taking my decoupage medium and I am going over the napkin section and making sure I have it down the way I want it. I'm brushing it down, smoothing it down with my brush with just a light coating of that decoupage medium. And for this particular project, I'm just using Elmer's glue and water. Sometimes I use that. Sometimes I use liquid patina from DIY. It just really depends on the project. I like to use this glue and water, one, because I have a gallon of glue and so I need to use it. And with napkins, it's not as like, I feel like when I'm spending a lot of money on a nice decoupage paper, then I'm going to use liquid patina because then it's like nice, you know, I don't know, that in my head it makes sense. But anyway, and I also wanted to make sure I didn't have that glue water combination on the metal around the napkin, so I'm cleaning it up. So you can see those two finished and dried. I was able to stack them because they are dry, and I did give them a clear coat. So now I'm coming in for the other two cups, again with my Apothecary Green, and I wanted to keep the rim of the cups that metal, so I'm covering this, just the sides, the bottom and the rim, and the insides are staying metal. So I'm going to be using this stamp from the spring release of Iron Orchid Designs called Shade and Song, and it has these beautiful cherry blossoms and branches and birds. And so I am working out which bird and which branch I want to use for the roof and of this birdhouse candle light holder. And I'm using black ink for the birds and the branches so that it stands out a little bit more on top of that stone gray that I used for the barnwood planks. Now again, if I'd done this in the correct order, I would have put the birds down and first because I want them on the outside. Then I would have put the branches down, and then I would have masked all of those off as I'm masking this little bird here, and then done the barnwood planks. But I didn't do it in the right order, so here we are. And it's fine because the bird and the branches still kind of stand out from the barnwood planks. So now I'm working on the other side, and I am figuring out where I want my placement of these birds and branches, and getting my thin mount, putting the black ink on, and then taking a baby wipe. And I like to go around the edges so I don't get any kind of that outline ghosting ink on my final product. So I'm only getting the bird stamped. And with Iron Orchid Designs ink, it does need to be heat set to really make sure that it's permanent. So now I'm placing my mask over the bird, and the masks do come with the sets, the stamp sets from Iron Orchid Design. So here is my finished product. Here's my little tea light, candlelight birdhouse with lots of flowers and butterflies and birds, and I just love it. I think it's so cute. So I'm using the same set of stamps, Song and Shade, for the little cups as well. And the nice thing about this is when you have a round design, you can leave the stamp on your table and kind of roll the cup over it like you see me doing. So this for me is just a little bit easier than trying to hold the round object and get the stamp to go where you want it. So I'm giving a little bottom layer of florals, and the bird kind of sits on top. So I'm hoping that you all are enjoying seeing the different creatives making stuff in this Flippin' Frenzy. I know we had so many amazing videos to share today, and I can't wait to see the ones for tomorrow. So I sent some goodies to the wonderful Janet from Twisted Oak Farm and Gift Store, and I can't wait to see what she does with them. Okay, so back to our mail sorter key holder. I am going to be decoupaging the inside cover of this organizer with this beautiful bird paper from Recycled Treasures, and you'll notice that I painted it white so that I have a clean background, so when the decoupage paper gets wet and becomes more see-through, you won't see any of the wood grain or any other colors come through, and you'll have a nice clean design there. So for this one, I am going to be using liquid patina from DIY. So this is a wonderful product to use as a decoupage medium, and it also is a sealer. So I think it was made to be a sealer, and a lot of people use it as a decoupage medium as well. So I am putting a little bit of the decoupage medium, the liquid patina, down to make a little strip to anchor my paper down once I have it in place, and this way it won't shift around when I'm trying to place it. And you'll notice that I'm also spritzing my paper with water. This helps to kind of expand the fibers in the paper before it expands naturally from hitting the decoupage medium, because you know when paper gets wet, it expands, which is why if you get a book wet, it gets all rumpled and messed up. But the same thing happens with decoupage paper. So if you spritz it before you lay it down, you're going to get that expansion in the process rather than after the fact, which would turn up as wrinkles. One of the things that I noticed is that this all the colors and papers and everything that I'm using are very cool toned, and that kind of harsh brass that the hardware came in just didn't really go with it. So I am taking some Rub and Buff in the color Pewter, and I am covering all of the hardware in this Rub and Buff, and it does take about 2 coats to get it all the brass covered. And then I'm putting it all back together. Once it's dry, it's been clear coated, I'm getting all of those pieces back together. And I hope that Lisa, who sent me this, is enjoying what I made from it. So what do you think? Do you think this is turning out better than the outdated wood color it came in? And now you can see the hardware going in with both the inside decoupage page as well as the key hooks there. And then I decided that with the inside being so pretty, and I'm going to stamp the sides, I needed something on the front. So I decided to take some amazing casting resin and use this mold from, again, the spring release of IOD called Sparrow's Nest. And I am mixing my 2 parts of resin, part A and B, into a small cup and pouring the molds that I am going to be using. Now, I did pour extra. I had an idea that did not come to fruition. So you'll see that I poured in the next part. You'll see that I have the extra 2 birds on the side poured, and I had this idea of putting them back to back to make them kind of a little dangle for it. But what I realized is that I thought that they were completely symmetrical, but they aren't. So they just didn't go together the way I wanted them to. So now I am placing my castings on the mail sorter part the way I want them and figuring it out. And I did like the way the tail feathers hung down. And because this resin is softer when it's hot or when it's fresh, I actually am able to mold that tail down, which I will show you shortly. But first, I painted all the parts in Apothecary Green, and then I am taking a dry brush technique with white over that so that I can see more of the dimension and details, and this way they won't blend in on top of the Apothecary Green that is on the mail sorter. I also wanted to have a little bit more of the dimension and details show, so I used antiquing wax that I watered down. So I put a little bit of wax on my glass craft mat. I spritzed it with water to water it down, and then I'm using a baby wipe to pull back a lot of it. So there's dimension, but it's not really dark, and I liked the way that came out. So you can see there's some brown sort of in the deep crevices, and there's the Apothecary Green, and then there's the white on top, so you can see all those different dimensions. And with this bird, his tail is hanging down, and you'll see in a second, I wanted the tail feathers to kind of wrap a little bit under. And so with this resin, it softens if you heat it up. So once I get all of my pieces down here, I am, with my Tight Blonde Quick and Thick glue, I will be taking my heat gun and heating up the tail feathers to kind of push them down and hold them down. And I think I even used a little bit of super glue to keep the tail feathers down. I didn't want them to be loose. I don't think anything would pop off because this Tight Blonde Quick and Thick glue is pretty sturdy. It was a little warm when I first heated it up, so I was using my tweezers to push it down. Okay, so on the sides of this, the front is beautiful, the inside is beautiful. I need a little bit of extra beauty on the sides. So I am, again, taking the Song and Shade stamp set, and I am figuring out where I want everything placed. But because the main colors on this are white and Apothecary, I didn't want to have anything super dark standing out. So I used stone gray for the birds, but they then went over the stone gray with a little bit of white ink as well to kind of tone them down. So I'm putting the birds down first because they would be in the foreground, and then I'm going to mask them off. And you can see I filled in the little gap there. So now the bird has a mask over it, and I'm figuring out where I want my cherry blossom branches to go, and I'm using white ink to ink up those branches. And this will give it a little bit more of a subtler look, and everything I feel like is just going to be softer and without any of those harsh lines of the darker inks. So let me know what you think. Do you like the white subtle stamping? It is harder to see, but I feel like it's also softer, and that's the look I was going for. What do you think? So I want to remind you again while I'm finishing this up to come back tomorrow for part 2 of our Flippin' Frenzy premiere train. Now, while these are premieres, these are going to be available to watch If you miss the premiere time, you can watch them anytime after, or you can watch them again and again and again and again if you get really inspired by some of these wonderful creators. So here are my final products. I have 4 floral arrangements in these 4 little cups. I have my candlelight birdhouse and the mail sorter. What is your favorite? I think my favorite is that little birdhouse. It's so cute and I had so much fun making it, and I loved being able to use all of those transfers. So once again, thank you for joining us for our Flippin' Frenzy. It was really fun to have things come across the country like this. I am over here on the West Coast with the smiley face. I received my objects from Louisiana, and I sent my thrift finds to Michigan. So again, thank you for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you are interested in more content like this, please subscribe to my little baby channel and help it grow. And I like to do a lot of DIY projects, thrift flips, and going on thrifting adventures. So please go ahead and give me a quick thumbs up and tell me what project you like the most in the comments, and subscribe. Keep making magic out there, folks. Thanks.